Up next is going to be the opposition leader, Mr. Andrew Holness. And here at Groovin Radio, what we have done, and you noticed for a very long time, that we have offered this platform to both parties out of Jamaica any information they want to share here in the diaspora, because I think, and we think, that the diaspora is so important. So far, a few have taken the invitation. Mr. Andrew Holness will be making about his 4th appearance right here on Groovin Radio. For those of you, ladies and gentlemen, who knows nothing about Mr. Andrew Holness, Anthony Turner has something very important to tell you. Go ahead, Mr. Turner.
Well, on October 23rd, 2011, at 39 years old, Mr. Andrew Michael Holness became the youngest Prime Minister in Jamaica's history and the first to be born after independence in 1962. He was also the youngest Prime Minister at the time of his appointment in CARICOM. And Mr. Holness has been the leader of the opposition since December 2012. This was after the Jamaica Labour Party lost the general elections. And he has had portfolio responsibilities for education, leader of the House of Representatives, and Minister of Defense, which he assumed on becoming Prime Minister, and was Special Assistant to former Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Edward Seaga. And since his formal entry into politics, Mr. Holness has carried the hopes and dreams of many Jamaicans that a new, inclusive, prospective politics will emerge in the society. He has also worked at all levels of the political system and has demonstrated a deep and genuine understanding of the hopes and challenges of the Jamaican people. He has developed a strong and direct link with the Jamaican masses and is seen as a man of the people and devoted to their interests. Mr. Holness was born to working-class parents in St. Catherine, Jamaica. His mother, a civil servant, instilled in him a sense of discipline, caution, and humility, which is characteristic of his style of leadership and his public persona. And prior to entering politics, Mr. Holness gained professional experience in the field of business, public policy, and social welfare. He has also served as General Manager of Premium Finance Limited and Executive Director of the NGO. He also taught for a short time at his alma mater, St. Catherine High School. So there you have it, a little bit of information about the former Prime Minister of Jamaica, Andrew Michael Holness.
Well, we take this time to welcome the Honorable Andrew Michael Holness to Groovin Radio. Good evening, sir. How are you doing this evening?
Good evening, Ras Clem.
How's everything, sir?
Mr. Turner, you did justice to the introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Holness. How are you doing? How's Jamaica?
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you. Happy birthday from Mr. Holness.
Sad to hear of the passing of Mr. Malone.
Yes. Sad
I'm
news.
not a big basketball fan, but I do know of it.
Yes, thank you. It's funny because when folks like LeBron James and what's the young man named Kobe Bryant, when they made the transition from high school to straight into the NBA, folks were saying that, boy, these fellas are too young. But again, they've proven that with life experience, it can work. So again, we say condolences to the great Moses Malone.
I would have had similar comments, similar experience, and I've proven them wrong. So
yes.
I don't mind young people transitioning and taking up positions of leadership and doing well. That's the power and beauty of youth.
Not at all, sir. Again, you became a youthful Prime Minister of Jamaica. And when I recognized that you were making this mini tour of New York this coming week, one of the things that caught my eye, Mr. Holness, was the fact that you're going to engage the youths. And it's very important that we now engage the youths. They are the future. And I say congratulations to you for even considering engaging the youth. Now, with election looming in Jamaica, we don't even know. An election can be called any time now in Jamaica. And with that said, what would a Jamaica Labour Party administration led by you, Mr. Holness, do differently in relations to Jamaica economical reforms?
Well, firstly, the Jamaica Labour Party has a duty to maintain fiscal discipline. What I mean about that is we, as a political party that is pro-business, pro-growth, pro-economic development, we understand the importance of maintaining strong management of the economic affairs of the country. And that must be maintained and improved, regardless of whoever is the government. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to put that on the table first. But outside of that, you would see a difference in a Jamaica Labour Party government in the growth and development of the economy. Mm. So presently, the government is blowing its trumpet about its contractionary policies, which it says are good fiscal policies, good management of the economy. But this is not so. Mm-hmm. The present government is putting in place policies that is contractionary. It is causing the economy not to grow. So the big difference between the Jamaica Labour Party and the PNP is that we grow the economy. Mm-hmm. And I want to point out to you that when we were the government 4 years ago, we faced the worst recession in 70 years that the global economy has faced. Our bauxite earnings fell, our tourism earnings fell, mm-hmm. remittances fell. The entire global economy was in a downturn. And we managed to hold the economy stable. No banks collapsed. There was no major impact on the financial institutions of the country. Mm-hmm. We managed to return from that situation and get growth in the economy. Mm. Now, the present government has had all the stars aligned in its favor. Oil prices have gone down to, almost, below $50 a barrel. When we were the government, oil prices were over $100 per barrel. Mm-hmm. We faced very difficult conditions on the global markets, with markets shrinking and losing access. This government is facing a global economy that is on the upswing, sluggish, but on the upswing nonetheless. Mm. And they have not grown. The last statistics they have put out in terms of growth shows, I can't even call that growth because that's within the margin of error. It's less than 1%. So the big difference between the Jamaica Labour Party and the PNP is that we grow the economy. It's very important that this be noted, because the big argument in Jamaica now is that the country is so highly indebted that we must do everything possible to repay debt. But President Obama visited Jamaica, and he said something that was very profound, something that I have been saying for a long time, and something that economists know, and people who understand how economies work, they know this, that the best way to pay back debt is to grow your economy really fast.
Right.
Because if the strategy that you are going to put in place is to tax more and spend less in order to repay debt, then what you are doing is putting in place austerity, which literally takes away the spending power from the economy and doesn't put back anything in the economy to grow.
Right.
So the government can't depend on its fiscal policies alone, meaning taxation and spending. It also has to embrace growth strategies. Now, if you were to compare the Jamaican experience with the American experience, and let me be the first to say that you really can't compare America with Jamaica. The United States has so many more tools in their economic toolbox, but the principles are the same. When the United States was in the recession,
right,
President Obama did things that spurred economic growth. He made special windows for renewable energy. He assisted companies that were deeply in debt and were faltering on the brink of closure. He stimulated the economy. He used growth strategies and growth tools to recover.
Certainly.
We haven't done that in Jamaica. And so if you were to characterize the Jamaican economy presently, it is an economy that has stalled.
Now, with that said, Mr. Holness, and you look at what's happening around the world, you look at China. There was a time when they say, if America sneezes, Jamaica catches the flu. And it seems to me now that if China coughs, America gets sick. Now, with all of that said, and it's out there, how would you leverage Jamaica geostrategic position and endowment in soft and hard infrastructure to leverage the with what's taking place with the Panama Canal?
Well, I think everybody agrees that Jamaica's physical location is strategic. Just by location, we are literally the center of the Northern Caribbean. And we are smack right in the midst of the most efficient shipping routes to go to the Panama Canal. But we have not done it. The present government has been talking about developing Jamaica as a logistics hub for the longest time.
Right.
And we haven't seen anything that shows any sign that this will happen. But let me say this. Jamaica has to position itself as open to business for all who want to invest. Jamaica relies heavily now on investment from China. And investment from China is good. We have benefited. We continue to benefit. And we want more investment from China. But that investment is investment generated mostly through the Chinese state. And there are some private investment coming from China, but it's easier to interface with the Chinese and secure their investment. Where the challenge is for Jamaica to make its systems globally competitive, transparent, and internationally benchmarked, so that it can interface with the private investors in North America without relying on government push or government facilitation. And that's where we have a challenge. So if you ask me, how would I make Jamaica more attractive? Those are the things that we would be working on.
Right.
Making sure that all our systems, our financial systems, our regulatory systems, our banking systems, that they are totally synchronized and benchmarked with international systems, so that an investor facing an investment decision between Jamaica and Cayman, Jamaica and Brazil, or Jamaica and any other country would say, Jamaica's standards are equal. I feel that I would have a fair chance in competitive bids and tenders.
Right.
Jamaica's standards are high. I would want to invest here.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the voice of the Honorable Andrew Michael Holness, the leader of the opposition party in Jamaica, the Jamaica Labour Party. My co-host would like to ask you a question, but before we get to that question, a yes and no answer, real quick. Now, when you look at, you mentioned the present government has been talking about that logistic hub.
Yeah, but you can't throw yes or no answers to me like that.
I understand. It's a very easy one, because I look at it and I say, if I was the Prime Minister, and if I was the Prime Minister of Jamaica, I would engage that logistic hub to be on the mainland of Jamaica. And that is the question. If you were the current Prime Minister negotiating this deal, Goat Island or the Kingston Harbour, which one?
I go to Kingston Harbour. The infrastructure is already there. It's closer to Kingston.
Yes.
I think it would be a better investment to make it in Kingston. But then that's my personal opinion.
And I think that's how most of us in the diaspora feel, because it's a burning question that people have been asking for a long time, and people have been talking here in the diaspora.
And then there are the environmental concerns.
Yes.
And other issues.
Yeah.
As well.
Breadman, your question.
Good evening, Mr. Holness. Breadman here.
Hi, Breadman.
I'm good. My question is, you being the former Prime Minister, but more importantly, the former Minister of Education, what programs would you have in place to really harness the potential of our Jamaican youth and really bringing them forth in a meaningful way on this world stage?
Well, it's not just that programs that I would have in place. It's programs that I already have put in place and would be continuing. First thing I did as Minister of Education was to give great prominence to the attainment of literacy. We established a national benchmark for literacy using what we call the Grade 4 literacy test. We set national targets for universal literacy, meaning that 85% of the cohort that sat the exam the first time around should attain mastery in literacy. And you know what? I feel so proud today of the kids who sat the exam this year, that 85% of the cohort has attained universal literacy at the grade 4 level. This means that as they move through the various cohorts in the population, the national literacy rate will increase. There are different statistics that measure literacy in Jamaica. Some have literacy rates between 70 and 80%, but we want national literacy to be universal, meaning that we want, above 90% of people to at least be able to read, write, comprehend, communicate, and converse and interface with technology. So I think having attained that important benchmark of all children at the primary level now being universally literate, Jamaica is on its way as a country to being universally literate.
Mr. Holness.
So that's one important thing that we not just said we were going to do, but we set it and we have achieved it.
Right.
The other part is skill training. If you look at the Jamaican labor force, 70% of the labor force has no formal training in any skill whatsoever, and that's a constraint on growth. It's also an obstacle to investment, because if you come into Jamaica and you want to have a mass pool to employ from, you might find availability of trained labor as a constraint. The beauty of it, however, is that our people learn very quickly. We're naturally creative and naturally smart people. So once there is a program in place that facilitates training, we can get up to speed rapidly.
Mr. Holness, it is my understanding that many Jamaicans often insist that both major political parties in Jamaica are the same. In terms of your approach to national development, how would the Jamaica Labour Party differ from the People's National Party right now?
Well, let me take this argument and just rubbish it right away. The Jamaica Labour Party is totally different in outlook and philosophy from the People's National Party. The Jamaica Labour Party has always maintained a moderate policy of cooperation between the working class, labor, and the owners of capital. And we maintain that from our founding father, Bustamante, and that is still the principle of the Jamaica Labour Party today. Other parties have taken on other philosophical directions, and in the 70s led us astray with socialism and other kinds of political directions, and we have never recovered from the devastation in our economy and national development. Surely there were some benefits that accrued from the 70s, but when weighed against the devastation of the economy, they paled. And now we see the PNP coming right back to being the greatest defenders of the IMF. And those people who are attached to the PNP from a philosophical base must be conflicted in themselves and probably ashamed. And I usually say that anyone who says we are the same are apologists for the PNP, and are probably very much ashamed of their party for what they're doing to the country and the country's economy now. My point to you is that the Jamaica Labour Party invests heavily in education. We removed tuition fees. We invested in schools. We built several schools while we were the government. We placed more teachers in schools by augmenting the teaching cohort with deans of discipline to manage the behavioral problems that were affecting schools. We invested in literacy. We made it generally easier for parents to send their children to school. Under the PNP, they have removed tuition fees. They are reducing the number of schools. They are reducing the number of teachers. How dare anyone say that we are the same if you were to take education as a benchmark? When it came to the management of the foreign exchange rate, we managed to keep the rate stable for 2 years, the last 2 years of our administration. This put against the backdrop of the worst global recession in 70 years. Look at what has happened to our dollar today. How dare anyone say that the JLP and the PNP are the same when it comes to the management of the economy?
Right.
If you were to take the growth of Jamaica, and you split it into growth under the JLP and growth under the PNP, you would find that the greatest years of growth were under the Jamaica Labour Party in the 60s and the 80s. In the last 24 years, the PNP has run this country for 20 years. We have run it for 4. How dare you make a comparison? And I don't mean you, but how dare anyone make a comparison to say we are the same? We are different. I lead a party that believes in the inclusive and shared prosperity of all. That cannot be said by the PNP. And generally, people have the feeling that the PNP is a narrow set of, the term that they use sometimes to describe the organization, it's almost a cult. And that the benefits are circulated within cult. And I think a lot of people have that feeling about the PNP. And what we are doing as a political party, surely we have our problems, but we are far more inclusive. We're a party that gives a platform for everyone's voice. We allow people to express themselves freely. We're a party that believes in the freedom of the individual. We are the party of independence, and we are the party of enterprise.
I think that question arises from the fact that with all the frustration with the general public, and not only in Jamaica, because even here, Breadman, you now start hearing people saying that, well, the Republicans and the Democrats, they are the same. They work for the same establishment. And I think that's where that question really, and I am happy that you're on with us, Mr. Holness, explaining these things. And that is why I offer this platform to anyone to come on and tell us, talk to us about these situations, because for a very long time.
I mean, I'll tell you something, Rasclem. There is a generation of Jamaicans in the diaspora that hold on to a vision of Jamaica sold to them by the PNP that does not account with the reality of the youth who are growing up in this generation. Unemployment is the highest it has ever been under any government. Unemployment. The People's National Party came to power on a promise of jobs, and a program called JEEP. I am meeting young people sitting on the roadside waiting on the JEEP with jobs to come. And it has not arrived.
It is funny you say that, because two things. Very good friend of mine in Jamaica, the Honorable Tony Rebel, will always say to me that the government is passing all of these IMF tests. I hope they know how. I hope they know how to pass tests to put food on poor people's table. And it's funny because that JEEP argument always come up. Where is the JEEP? And I think someone from the People's National Party needs to explain where that JEEP is today. Happy you brought that up. Now, I think this is going to be my final question if Breadman don't have another one. Your party is building a campaign around the theme, moving Jamaica from poverty to prosperity. What are your key components, Mr. Holness, in achieving your vision of prosperity for our native Jamaica?
Well, I think the first thing is the investment in education. We have to get people thinking positive. We have to get people thinking in a prospecting way. That is looking for opportunity, looking to help themselves, looking to rely on themselves, but at the same time, looking to embrace the world, because you can't grow Jamaica from Jamaica alone. And Jamaica is naturally an open country to the world. So we have to embrace our diaspora as part of our commonwealth. We have to strengthen ties with our traditional partners, the UK, the USA, and Canada. We have to build new ties in Latin America, South America, Brazil, Argentina, Colombia, in addition to our traditional friends in Cuba and Venezuela. So Jamaica has to expand itself and integrate itself much more in terms of trade and commerce with the world. I think we also have to solve our energy problem.
Right.
One of the greatest revolutions that can happen in Jamaica is the energy revolution. We have been very timid, very coy, and I think we have made some mistakes in how we have gone about trying to solve the energy crisis. The United States has offered a window to us to participate with them. I think we should grab it very quickly to diversify from oil to gas, but with the low oil prices now, the impetus might not be there, but I think visionary leadership should continue to pursue diversification from oil to gas. But more than that, we need to attract the investment and put in place the regulatory and legislative environment to ensure that renewables such as solar and wind form a high part of our electricity generation capacity.
You know, Mr. Holness, there are more burning questions now coming in, but with the limited time we have here.
Well, I'll tell you something, Rastam. Yeah. I will be in New York at the Medgar Evers College.
Yes. On Wednesday.
On Wednesday, September the 16th at 5:30 p.m. We want to talk to all Jamaicans. A lot of young people will be there. But I invite you to come and hear the prosperity agenda for Jamaica.
And, you know, I say to people, when these situations arise, ladies and gentlemen, take the opportunity. As the opposition leader just mentioned, this coming Wednesday, there will be a youth summit at Medgar Evers College on Bedford Boulevard, on Bedford Avenue in Brooklyn. We urge you, ladies and gentlemen, you can come and ask your question of the opposition leader. You know, the situation about how important the diaspora is to Jamaica, he will speak on it. The situation with crime and education in Jamaica, he will speak on it, ladies and gentlemen. This is just a lead up to what you will get this coming Wednesday. As a matter of fact, there's also another important engagement that you will be having, Mr. Holness, and this is a cocktail reception will be held at the Panache restaurant, ladies and gentlemen. This is something that you need to go out and meet and greet the opposition leader. He's the youngest man to ever become Prime Minister. And I'm going to put a little secret out there. You know why his middle name is Michael?
Why is that?
His dad. He laughed first because you know what I'm going to say. His dad was a fan of Michael Manley. And that's why his dad named him Andrew.
My dad still remains an ardent socialist.
Yes.
And a big supporter of Michael Manley, and so I was named in honor of Michael Manley. I do respect the work of Michael Manley.
Thank you.
I think, however, that is dalliances with socialism. I mean, I think he meant well, but the end result was that Jamaica got derailed. You know, put it to you this way. Had we continued on the path that was set in the 1960s, Jamaica would be pretty much on par with Singapore. Lee Kuan Yew came to Jamaica in 1970, and he saw what we were doing in terms of our industrialization policy and the development of our economy. And he went back to Singapore and implemented several of those things. Of course, he made some comments regarding our culture and our attitude towards work. He didn't take those. He took our policies and programs and made well of it. But had we continued, we would be, you know, at least 10 times wealthier as a nation than we are now. But we pay for it. And those who continue to hold on to that dream, I mean, that generation is passing. But we must never make that mistake with the generation to come. We must focus on our economy. We must focus on economic growth. It is through our economic development that we can truly stand shoulder to shoulder, head to head, and say we are an independent country. Definitely.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the voice of the leader of the opposition, Andrew Michael Holness, who will be in New York. Who will be in New York come this Tuesday and Wednesday. The Tuesday event is going to be at the Panache restaurant. And for more information regarding this event and how you can support this event, ladies and gentlemen, please dial this number now. And as we lead up to the election, Mr. Holness, I'm going to invite you again to keep us abreast of the situation. This platform is always open to share information with the diaspora.
If you call me, I'll be available.
Thank you very much for that, sir. And before you go, one of your sisters is celebrating a birthday. This program is listened everywhere, up in Boston.
My sister, I call her Opal. Most people know as Nicola. She's in Boston. Happy birthday, Opal.
All right, sir. Well, I will see you on Tuesday, Mr. Holness. Safe travel.
Thanks.
Any parting words before you go?
Well, prosperity is the word for Jamaica. We're tired of poverty. We want a prosperous future. And that's what our politics should be aimed at totally.
Ladies and gentlemen, the leader of the opposition, Andrew Michael Holness. Thanks again, sir. We'll see you on Tuesday.
Thank you.
Take care, Mr. Holness.
Bread man, make myself your lively, is not a dead man.